Welcome to the Being Known podcast with my friend, Dr. Curt Thompson.
And my friend, the most beautiful man in the world.
We are here
Pepper
to
Sweeney.
discover and explore what it means to be truly known
As
Dr.
the
Desire.
most beautiful man in the world. Every now and then, I got to keep you honest.
Yeah.
And if we have new listeners, I want them to know right out of the gate.
Yes,
who they're
indeed.
listening to.
You are listening to the Being Known podcast, and we are so excited that you are. We would love it if you would rate and review us on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen. That helps us get new listeners so that we can share the news of Dr. Desire being in the house. Today we are venturing into episode 9 of season 8, and this season we have been placing ourselves in the path of oncoming beauty. This has been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of deep stuff, and it's helped me personally to practice the attunement to beauty and to sort of reignite that in my life, some of those practices, and to be paying attention to the things that I'm paying attention to, and to allow more beauty into my life and learn how that is affecting me in every aspect of my life. And today we are talking about the state domain of integration.
Right.
Yeah.
We've talked in other seasons about this particular domain of the mind, this notion that we all encounter different states throughout our day. I have a state of mind that I'm in when I'm at my dinner table, or if I'm playing pickleball with my wife. By the way, my wife, who's now retired, is like picked up pickleball, and she's killing it.
Have you played yet? Have you played?
Yeah. But now she's playing 2 to 3 times a week.
Oh, that's awesome.
There were two other women, our neighbors, who retired they all retired within a month or two of each other, and they're now all going playing pickleball 2 to 3 times a week.
That's
great.
So fun.
Yeah, it's great. And so we have these different states that we're in, and we can talk about it pretty easily. Oh, a state of mind, we all kind of get it. As it turns out, these states have high correlation with particularly durable neural network firing patterns. And like, well, what does that mean? That means that, on our typical workday, when my alarm goes off, I hit the alarm and I get up, and there's a certain routine that you enter into, whether you go to exercise and then shower, and then if you're having time for solitude or prayer or whatever, there is a certain way in which, when you've practiced being in that state, the alarm goes off and the state gets primed and it is automatically ready to go in your brain. But that if it's a Saturday and we're going to get up and go play pickleball, that's a completely different state of mind that you get primed for. And you might say, oh, this is all very interesting. Yeah, fine, whatever, except that these states become more and more durable. By durable, I mean, once the state gets started, once the alarm goes off on a Wednesday, everything about the brain is primed to enter into that particular state. So I'm primed to go to work. And then even within work, I have certain times of, you have a state of mind that you're in when you're with one patient or then another patient. And you, Pep, you've got multiple states going on because of all the different, I don't know how many burners you have on your stove now. I can't count the number. It's like it's a huge Vulcan stove. I know that. That's meant to like cook for a battalion, the Marine Corps.
Yeah, exactly. I'm curious, Curt, when you say that we're primed for that state of mind, does the pattern of that doing those things, knowing that it's coming, the brain knows it's coming, so you're already primed for what's coming when you wake up? Is that what you mean by that?
Right. It's prime meaning, and it knows this without our being consciously aware. Right. That it knows this, and this can be, in many respects, this is all kind of pretty neutral. Like, it's kind of like, I remember when I would, when I was a kid, a young kid, I would be home after school. My mom was already at home. She's preparing dinner, and my dad would get home at about 5:30, 5:30, 5:45, because closed the store up at 5 o'clock, about 5:30, and I would hear his truck door close. And when I was a really young kid, like 6, 7, 8 years old. The back door entrance where he came in, there was this little kind of landing area where you come in, and there was a little ledge that you couldn't see behind. And every time I hear the truck door close, and without thinking, I would go and I would crouch down behind this little landing area, and he would come in and around the landing area, and I would jump out to startle him. And I mean, every single time, like it was as if it was the first time, right?
Right.
Now, I don't know what he knew and what he didn't know, and if he knew I was there, if he didn't, but like it felt to me like, oh my gosh, like this is, I can't. But there was a certain, like, I didn't have to, what should I do? Like, no, after you do this for a while, you hear the car door close, and you just start to do this, and there you have your activity. In many respects, there are lots of things that we do in the course of our day in this rhythmic way that we enter from one state to another. You get in your car, you turn your car on. You're in a certain state of mind when you're driving your car, certain state of mind when other things happen. Here's the tricky part. We have lots of experiences in our life in which we would have, when our traumas leave us with unprocessed grief. When we have parts of our lives when, I grew up in a house where I wasn't really comfortable with people being angry. It felt uncomfortable, threatening to me. So when I sense people are angry, it shifts my state of mind in ways that I can't easily regulate. So I have to practice taking a breath, because otherwise my state of mind will take off on its own. And our listeners, I think we all know what this is like. We are these rhythmic beings. We are rhythmically moving from state to state to state. And all of these states that we move from, there is a certain energy expenditure that takes place whenever we transition from one state to another. And that expenditure, sometimes we if you're going to a concert, if you're going to go to a Bengals game, if you get the chance to go see, there was a different Broadway Joe, but now I don't know if there's a famous street in Cincinnati, but if there would be, we would call it something State Street Joe or whatever for Joe Burrow. Like everybody's coming to see the show, right? If we want to see that, if I'm transitioning to that game, there's a certain expenditure of energy, but it's anticipation of something beautiful that's going to happen. But if I'm coming home from work where things have been okay, but I know that I have to have a hard conversation with my wife, I'm having to transition. But sometimes we get surprised by state changes in ways, you think you're fine, and the next thing you know, your boss or employee or your spouse or your friend or whatever makes some comment, and suddenly your brain transitions to some state that feels distressing, that feels really difficult for me. And if that is a state that is reminiscent of what it was like for you growing up in your house, in which when people would get angry or anxious or frightened or whatever, and you would find yourself in your own uncomfortable state, and you get transitioned into that place, and there's a certain energy expenditure that we make with that. All this transition, all these rhythms are just like they are echoes of the material world, right? You start with the cosmos, right? The turning of the stars, Earth's rotation, seasons, tides, even human birth, right? When women are in labor, there's a going and a coming, right? With this labor trying to get, with contractions, the baby comes, the baby goes, and then the baby goes off to college, right? There is this rhythm that takes, and then we get where individuals, we have cardiac and pulmonary rhythms, and we have the rhythm of our gait, and we have the rhythm of our gaze. I look at you, I look away from you. And then there's this rhythm of solitude and community that we're always in. But one of the things that happens with trauma is that those rhythms get disrupted. And we find ourselves stalled in these fearful states of shame, states of sadness, states of grief. And we will then do everything we can to avoid those states. And oftentimes we're doing it, we learn early in our years that we learn to avoid them. We learn to kind of package them away without even knowing that that's what we're doing. We just kind of do it quite automatically. as a way to just not pay attention to it. In the same way that, I'm playing in a football game or on a basketball court and I tweak my ankle, but I really want to play the game. And so I just keep playing, and the injury and the pain of the injury, I find a way to not pay attention to the pain, because if it's not so bad that keeps me from playing, I'm just going to keep playing. But the next morning I wake up and I'm wondering why my ankle is so sore. Because I have effectively kept from paying attention to the state of pain that my body is trying to get my attention about. I'm just going to keep playing. And we all have these kinds of experiences, and the threshold of awareness is different for different levels of injury. Sometimes if the ankle injury is bad enough, or if the cut on my finger is bad enough, I can't avoid it. If the wound is bad enough with someone mistreating me, I can't avoid it. But we're a particularly capable species of not paying attention to our trauma. And so when we encounter beauty as a rhythmic exercise, we find that in doing so, we are actually participating in the very way that we were made to live and breathe in a flourishing fashion. We are allowing beauty to be a cadenced part, a state of mind that I want to enter into on purpose. And when we do this on a regularly cadenced basis, I strengthen my remembered and anticipated life of beauty by remembering that encounter that I had. And so I keep these artifacts of beauty at the ready for those moments when it feels like I'm losing my mind. If I practice on a regular basis, allowing myself to be in the presence of beauty, what I'm doing is I'm stacking those experiences in my remembered self. My neural networks of memory put them in a place where I can access them. They can be at the ready for moments in which I'm not feeling beautiful, when my emotional state is dysregulated, as a means of establishing a sense of grounding in my body when I'm feeling really overwhelmed. One of the things that we do in our confessional communities is when someone has an experience that is particularly healing, we will stop and say, this is a moment of beauty that I want us all to, we're just going to pause, and we want everybody in the room to remember it. Especially the person who's had that moment of healing. I want you to go around the room and look at everybody's face. I want you to pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're sensing, the sense of wholeness that you have, the sense of relief that you have, the sense of connection that you have. And we'll take 30 seconds, 90 seconds to do this. And then we will say tonight and over the next 7 days, we've talked about this here on the podcast before, we want you to write this out like you're writing the screenplay of what just happened here. You're actually putting yourself in the path of beauty, of the moment, that it can become something that you can call on. You're then going to turn your attention toward that beauty and allowing that moment to turn your attention toward wholeness, toward, as we've talked about, the 4 S's, right? To be seen, soothed, safe, and secure. We're also inviting beauty in those moments to draw our attention to the present moment and away from either the chaos of or rigidity of the worry of the past, or the anxiety, or the regret of the past, or the anxiety about the future. And so these are just some of the ways in which the practice of making sure that beauty is a part of our cadenced rhythmic self, we create states of beauty and goodness, and these become states to which I can turn my attention in those moments when other states find me that are so unpleasant.
Through this work that we've been doing the last 8 weeks or so, well, obviously longer, but this sort of specific work towards putting ourselves in the path of oncoming beauty. So there was something that in my life that was triggering me, that was triggering anxiety in me, and I couldn't understand. Like, I thought it was something that I should have been triggered by just on the face of it. But um, in doing this work and doing it in a um, or as a rhythmic exercise, um, I've had some discovery of why um, uh, why there was this triggering, or why I feel this triggering, and it's tied to um, stuff from my childhood and things that has just, so putting myself in the front of beauty has sort of um, forced me to focus on uh, some of the cracks in the lens, some of the trauma, and that I'm feeling from present day things, but it's really tied to these past
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm wondering, can you, I'm wondering if you can say more about the process for you by which the encounter with beauty is connecting you to that
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
Not even so much about the event itself, but like, what's your what's your take on how?
Well, I'll say one
Yeah.
thing. I think that when I am actively putting myself in the path of beauty, whether it's um, some of the photography that we've been talking about, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
meditation like we're going to be talking about today, um, I feel like when I'm doing that, I also can't be anxious
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I can really be focused on this, I can't. So the anxiety is relieved. So that gives me like clarity. And as my mind sort of is focusing on the beauty, there's just been some revelation through that
Mm-hmm.
of,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute, this is, so my mind kind of went to where these connections were happening, um, and then out of having that experience, then going and like having the conversation with my wife in particular about, this is what I'm finding and what I'm like, then voicing it and being able to share it with somebody has taken a lot of the air out of the balloon for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that then when I'm faced with those same triggers today, I'm able to see them more for what they are, as
Yeah.
opposed to, it feeling like an attack, or it feeling like, yeah. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Dude, like okay, so I mean, even as you're saying this, like I'm just aware of this whole notion of how, um, before the show, I was talking about how I've just started to. I had my first meeting yesterday with a new spiritual director, and I mentioned how I know there is a part of me, and my spiritual director for the first time is a woman. And I know that one of the things that I'm looking for in this is a non-anxious presence in
Mm,
someone who is older than me, someone who is able to be in my presence and I can be completely confident, is like, I'm not going to have to take care of this person. I'm not even wondering, like, at what point am I going to have to take care of this person?
mm.
And being in that presence enables, and yesterday, my first, enabled me to name things.
Mm.
And it's so like things that make me, things about me that make
Right.
me anxious,
Right.
that make me sad, make me angry, make me ashamed in particular. And it is stunning to see what happens when you're in the presence of something that is not anxious but is very present to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
How it calms me in such a way that I can then name the things about my own story
Yeah.
that have been unpleasant, that I have judged, that I have said, like, that's bad about me,
Hmm.
without the condemnation. And And I think about what you're talking about, this whole notion of how beauty kind of ushers us into this wide open space.
Yeah.
Like, so to your point, if I'm present, I'm less anxious. And if I'm less anxious, my heart is opened to becoming aware of something about my story, but without the shame, being connected to and I can observe it without judgment. Yeah, something's up. Say.
No, so I would get, these triggers would happen, and all of a sudden I'd be in a state of mind that just there was no transition. It's like that, and like you were
Dude.
talking earlier, and so now having the understanding that of what the root is
Mm-hmm.
to all of this
Mm-hmm.
is just helpful. It's
Yeah.
helpful to
Right.
me in the moment to realize, wait a minute, I don't I don't really even need to be anxious about this thing that's in front of me. This reaction that I'm having is not even necessarily about what's happening to me in the present.
Right.
And so having not had taken the time to have times of contemplation, to have times of beauty, to have times where I'm you know because I'm telling you that when I say trigger it,
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
you know I
Right.
yeah, I'm feeling
Right.
this, right? I'm tingly.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
And
so like,
yeah,
yeah.
no,
Well, I mean, like even that whole thing about transition. I mean, part of our challenge, we say that look, most of our troubles in our life occur because of the difficulty that we have in our transitions from one state to another.
mm,
It's the transition that creates. It's the transition period, and this is the thing. If I have a, in our last episode that where we interviewed Sean,
yeah,
right? We talked about these moments of being surprised by
yeah,
beauty,
yeah,
but when we are surprised, the transition, like we certainly transition from one state to another, but we don't have much. There's not much of a period of transition. The transition is quick.
yeah,
What you're saying is that you can go before you have a transition that happens very quickly and
yeah,
sends you into a state of mind that is very unpleasant.
yes,
The work with beauty enables you to contemplate this in such a way that now, if I'm hearing you right, if I'm now, when the trigger comes, when the event comes that evokes something, you have extended the transition period.
yes,
You
yes,
give yourself transition time. So this is not unlike, when we say to 3 or 4 year olds when we're on a play date, we say, "Hey, here's a 5 minute warning."
right,
Right now we could leave in 2 minutes and they wouldn't know the difference, right? Or we could leave in 10 minutes and they wouldn't know the difference. But it's what we are doing is we are drawing their attention to the notion that we are going to be transitioning. It helps them get ready for this. And so when they leave, they're far more able to make that transition rather than just, okay, bud, it's time to go.
yeah,
And this is just true for what you're talking about. And it's not just that I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to wait. No, beauty, contemplating beauty enables me to wait with the expectation that I can actually make this transition in a way that leads to beauty and goodness, that leads to greater integration, that leads to, like, so for instance, we talk about the tripod of awareness, that I want to be open to experience, that I want to be observant, right? I want to, without condemnation, I want to observe it, not
hmm,
critique it, whatever my experience is, so that I can be objective. And by objective, not as opposed to subjective, but to see the entire object, to see the entire object. And what you're describing is you include more of your story in your awareness. What you're recognizing through your time with beauty. Beauty enables you, if I'm hearing this, beauty enables you to have the space to be able to recognize, oh, this isn't about this present moment. This is about a part of me that was 6 or 16 and something happened. And I can be compassionate and merciful, and I can feel things for that part of me that still feels very, very young, feels vulnerable.
yep,
Yeah.
yeah. And
And
I
that
can look
changes what I'm
back
doing
and
in the here and now.
reflect right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And
Yep.
not regret.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Like those tracks. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Exactly. Our time tracks. Yeah. And we uh, I'm just thinking about my first encounter with Rothko. And then we've talked about number one here. I mean, I'm sorry, number 61. Rothko's number 61. This that's here in my office that I love, and that was part of our season's
Yep.
time. This notion that beauty itself, as it reveals different states of its own, it therefore enables me, like what you're talking about. It allows you to have things revealed to you
Mhm.
about you, and that takes time, right? Like when I can listen to one piece of music and just listen to it once, and you're like, okay, yeah. But if I'm going to listen to a piece of music over and over and over again, and by that I mean be really present with it. If I'm, and if I look at a Rothko painting,
Mhm.
I I don't immediately have all the objective pieces there on the. It's just this color, and it is inviting me to take my time. And it is in that space where I have to give the beauty time to speak to me so that it can reveal to me parts about me that I work really, really hard to stay away from.
Yeah.
All these different states. And you're right. Like if I have a remembered event or series of events that would evoke a particular state of mind with me, I don't want to go there if I don't like that. If it's painful, I don't want to, yeah, I can't wait today to feel really ashamed. I hope this thing gets triggered in me. Looking forward to it.
Right.
It's like thinking like, well, I hope somebody punches me in the nose today. I'm looking for. Like, no, that would be silly. We're doing just the opposite. And also kind of like what we were talking about with Sean, this notion that, when we imagine beauty, we imagine that, oh, I'm going to encounter this, I'll be surprised by it in a way that is wonderful and exhilarating. And yet if we stay with it long enough, it's coming for every part of us.
Yeah. It will reveal parts of ourselves, just by sitting with it. It will reveal parts of ourselves that we had forgotten about, and we're- it's not always the most beautiful parts of ourselves. At least we don't see it that way, but
Right.
sometimes those parts lead us to the most beauty that we can find.
Right. Well, and I love what you said about so you had this discovery, you had
Yeah.
this revelation, and then you talked about it with Nell.
Yeah.
Right, this is the next step of this, right? Revelation is not just when things are revealed to me about me. It's not just for my own private, awareness. I need in saying this to somebody else. I'm actually making the revelation and the encounter with beauty that even that much more permanent
Hmm.
and that much more vulnerable, because I can say to somebody else, "Gosh, I had this encounter and it revealed that it's not just one person. I've got a list of people that I need to forgive."
Yeah.
And you might say, "Oh, well, I can say that, yeah, the list of people you forgive because there are all these people who I can actually no. Let me be even more like transparent and say, in each of these situations, the forgiveness includes me having to repent from the story that I had been telling
Yeah.
about these people."
Yeah.
I like the idea of having a list of people that I need to forgive because, of course, then I can just keep in mind the way I've been done wrong.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, beauty continues to stick around. It reminds me, there's the story in the Magician's Nephew, where the nephew, the boy, I'm blanking on his name right now. The boy, when Aslan is about to create, he's in the process of creating Narnia, and the boy who has the queen she's come into Earth, and now she's moving from Earth to Narnia, and Aslan's having this conversation with the boy. How did how did that happen? Well, and the boy starts to talk about what she did, Jada, right? What she did and how did that happen? And how did that happen? And it wasn't until the boy was finally able to own his role And he's terrified because he's speaking to something that could kill him. He doesn't know any different, but that's the case. But then he reveals, right? And so beauty, the lion's beauty, like he's demanding in the same way that he is healing. He's also demanding. And so what these practices do, I think, is that beauty really ultimately strengthens our ability not only to be aware of our own states of mind, these various ones, but that then enables me to be even more aware. Like if I'm more aware that I have multiple states of mind, I can become more aware and curious of the states of mind of others and merciful toward them. Especially when I'm with people who, behave in ways that create uncomfortable states of mind for me. I can say, "Oh my gosh, I wonder where that person is. Like, what's the state of mind? What's happening with them? They're behaving in a way right now that I'm not liking." And I can just take it personally, and I can just accuse them of being mean or whatever, or being mindless or whatever. But I can also be curious about what the discomfort is within them. If I am practicing being aware that those things are true about me all the time. In the opening scene of John 11, the Gospel of John, as he walked along, he came upon a man born blind. Is the opening line of John chapter. I'm sorry, not John chapter. John chapter 11. This opening scene. I'm confused. Let me pause. John 11. We're talking about the opening scene where Jesus is with his disciples. This is the story of Lazarus. Jesus is with his disciples, and they get the news that Lazarus is sick. Please come. And the disciples have all kinds of states of mind because they're like, "I don't think we should go there," because they wanted to try to kill you the last time you went to Jerusalem. This is not really this is bad for marketing. And Jesus waits and waits and waits, and you're given the opportunity in the text to witness these different states of mind. Jesus is in a very different state of mind than the states of mind that they're in. And then by the time we get to Martha, her state of mind, and then you get to Mary, her state of mind, all having to interact with the state of mind that Jesus has. And he is paying attention to them. Each sets of the disciples, Martha, Mary, he's with them. They're all in different states of mind. And his is one of a non-anxious presence that is able to be present with them because he's deeply aware of his own state of mind. He's deeply aware of this. And he can then connect with each of them in their own particular ways that they need while he continues to do what he intends to do. And this is what beauty does. Beauty enables us to continue to move on the path that God has for us, even while we are encountering other people who are in different states of mind than ours. Because it does for us the very thing that you're talking about. When we encounter beauty in that way, it allows us to have the experience of being healed, but also being revealed so that we can go on and create that same possibility for others.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about, I alluded to it a little bit earlier. You talk about trauma as a lens that's been shattered, it's been cracked, and it feels to me like beauty is one of the things that can work as a salve to that lens and help us to see more clearly through some of those cracks and see. Yeah, it's been
totally
really helpful for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you for.
Well, I just one last thing I just want to highlight, Pep, and that is that for our listeners, we are. I mean, I'm just thinking like here we're recording in mid-November, and the world is on fire.
Yep.
It's on fire in the Middle East. It's on fire in Ukraine. And those are just the two stories that capture the front headlines because they'll sell the most papers. But there are stories all over the place that now have just kind of, moved into the woodwork, um, where in which the fire is burning just as hot,
Right.
and some of those fires are burning in our kitchens, in our bedrooms, in our boardrooms, in our, the news of, the most recent story of sexual abuse that's taken place in the context of a church. And the more desperate we are, the more urgently we feel the need for an answer that I can just apply. That will just fix it. And I need the solution, and I need it now because the pain is so great.
Mm-hmm.
And, we are very wordy people. We want logical, linear answers to everything. We figure, with the illusion and the delusion of modernity that we're going to have progress until we no longer need to talk about pain because it won't be here anymore, which I say, like, it's not just an illusion, it's a delusion. And the gospel comes with beauty. The leading edge of the gospel, the leading edge the story of the biblical narrative is that of a vulnerable artist who comes and whose very presence, the embodied presence, long before he's talking about all kinds of things, his very embodied presence, his gaze, the tone of his voice, the embrace with which he holds the children that come to him, who the disciples want to shoo away. It long precedes this beauty that enters into the world and invites us to come to him, all of us who are weary and burdened, and gaze upon me, gazing upon you. And then go and be that for others. And I think, dude, I think about the relationship that you and Amy and I have. And I think that, I think of the number of times where I have left these recording times and other times when we've been together so much more integrated and relieved because I'm in the presence of beauty in our relationship. And, it corrects and heals and reveals my states of mind and brings me into a place, a wide place to stand, that the psalmist in verse 9 of 31 Psalm just reminds us of that. And so I just want to thank you and Amy for being living, breathing embodiments of these states that enable us to be the creatures that God wants us to be.
I feel the same. Thank you. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
Last week we talked when we were talking with Sean, and the encouragement for the artistic offering for the week was to spend some time in meditation and contemplation, and an easy way for people to get, or a doorway into that. We offered them to go to kurtthompsonmd.com /reflections, or just go to kurtthompsonmd.com and click on the word reflections at the top of the page, because that will lead you to a space where there are things made available to you that are beautiful and will help with a rhythmic exercise in beauty and meditation. You mentioned Rothko 61. There's that is up there. The Wendell poem, Piece of Wild Things, is up there. And one of the practices that you've taught me over the years, and I've shared with others, is the space of strength and beauty, the breathing exercises that you have there. So, Curt, can you talk to me for a minute? We touched upon it some in this episode already, but uh, what is the benefit of putting ourselves in front of this kind of beauty, in front of this reflective, contemplative, meditative beauty?
Well, Pep, just fundamentally, one of the things that trauma does to us is that it leaves us in states of mind in which we sense and feel the lack of agency. Like, I can't do anything. The two pillars of trauma. One is that I'm overwhelmed, and the second is that I'm unable to do anything to change it. I'm powerless to do anything to change it. So one of the that it these are practices that bring us into spaces of the present moment. And being in the present moment means I'm reducing my anxiety. If I'm reducing my anxiety, I am more open to taking in what I am paying attention to. And if what I'm paying attention to is beauty, as we like to say in the business, we become what we pay attention to. Become. In our relationships, if I'm working hard to develop relationships that by their very nature are ones of greater love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, I become more of that because that's what I'm paying attention to in these relationships. When I'm looking at a Rothko painting on the website, if I'm listening to Beethoven's symphony, if I'm listening to David Wilcox, if I'm listening to Wendell Berry's poem, I am allowing myself, in the way that I sense and image and feel, to be drawn into a space of great integration. This becomes something that I can become, with agency, I have now participated in developing a state of mind in which I am comfortable and confident. And I've been a participant in this. And if I'm practicing this enough, this becomes a thing that I can then take with me. I'm reminding, like, I hop in my car and I'm driving to work and I'm thinking back on Wendell Berry's voice. Dude, like Wendell Berry's voice, like you can't put a price tag on it. Yeah. And I'm aware, I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to pay attention to. And so I then take this beauty with me such that it enables me to look for and see beauty in my world on purpose, when heretofore I wasn't. I was allowing myself to be caught up in all the anxieties, all the ruminations, all the future problems, all the regret of the past. That's where my mind is going. But if this is how I'm practicing, I now begin to look for beauty in my day-to-day life. That continues to take up more and more real estate of remembered experience, in which there's literally like more minutes out of the day that are taken up with me looking for, discovering, and having relationship with beauty. This invariably has impacts on how I'm now going. That's going to be the state of mind with which I approach even the hardest moments of my day. This becomes transformational, not just in the moment that I'm encountering the beauty, But it then becomes something that is forming me in such a way that I'm a different person when I enter into moments where beauty is not so easy to be found. And as we like to say, if neuroplastic change is anything, it is a thing that takes place with lots and lots and lots of practice over small moments. So even 2 or 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Several times a week. Doesn't have to be like an hour. We can find that when we are willing, Jesus will take everything we give him, and every mustard seed that we give him, he's going to turn it into an entire field's worth of harvest.
Beautiful. I just want to invite you all to um, continue this practice, make it a rhythmic exercise. There are so many resources on Curt's website, and Curt you've also turned me on to Into the Silent Land, the Laird book, which is a great book on Christian contemplation that I've found very helpful. There are a lot of resources, is what I'm trying to say, and we are trying to make those as accessible as possible to you. This is a important work. It's affected my life in a positive way, and just want to pass it on to you folks. And thank you, Curt, for having all those. I mean, the resources are great, and the way it's set up in your website, it did a great job. So thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome. Welcome.
So next week, or this week, I would say, we would love for you to seek out, and it's very easy to find on the internet. And and that is Van Gogh's Irises. I actually found a website that has it where you can download it, and right now I'm looking at it. It's filling up a full monitor in my office, the irises, and it's just, to spend time just looking at this it's putting myself in front of this beauty is a great thing, and we'll talk about it next week. So this week,
I can't wait. I know a little of this story, and dude, like I can't wait for our audience to hear.
Yeah. And this week we want you to spend some time there, and so you're ready for next week. And until then, Curt, it's great being with you.
You too, man. Thank you. Will we put the link for the downloadable place? Can we put that in show notes? Can we do that?
Of course we can.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes. And if those of you watching on YouTube, stick around because Amy Chella is going to be joining us here for our post-show conversation. Love you, bud.
Love you, man.
Hi, guys.
Amy Chella.
Amy Chella.
In the virtual flesh.
That's what I was waiting for.
So good. Okay, I have a couple of thoughts, and I have a question. I don't know if I usually have questions, but I have a question. Okay, so Curt, you said most of our troubles revolve around our ability or inability or challenge with transitioning.
From state to state. That's right.
Yeah. Oh my. Okay. So there's that. I'm putting a couple placeholders, and then the trauma interrupts our ability. So transitioning, being able to transition, really is worthy of our attention because it's big. Then most of us have had trauma. All of us have had some level of trauma.
Yeah.
That interrupts it. But then that beauty can help us refine our ability to transition. So
for the next uncomfortable rapid transition period to show up, and then clamoringly like looking for beauty in my mind. I want to, on my drive to work, I want to practice. Oh, this morning I'm going to bring it to mind. I'm going to set my watch, and three times today when my watch goes off, I'm going to just like, I'm going to take 30 seconds, and I am going to contemplate something that I've done, maybe from the website offerings, from reflections that we talked about, or the driftwood pieces from Jekyll Island, all these things that we've been talking about, a scene from Shawshank, right? I'm going to replay these things. I'm going to have them at the ready and let them do their work. Let them knead the dough, right? So yeah, and then so you're right, Amy. Like when we're doing this on purpose, it becomes these moments become much more easily accessible to us when we do and it's inevitable. Like so
it's the whole reason why I started memorizing poetry, so that I can have it at the ready. And I heard the actor, I don't know if Ethan Hawke.
Oh yeah,
talking recently, and he was talking about poetry, and he said we don't. Something I'm paraphrasing, and it's going to be, but he was basically saying, we don't need, we don't think we need these words, this type of language. We don't think we need it until we do, and then if you don't have it, you're in trouble. So we need this for grief and for trauma and for all these things. But if we don't, if we haven't filled our bags up with it so that it's ready for us, like you say, Curt, then you're scrambling and trying to figure out what I'm going to do.
Right.
But if we've been practicing these things, then they're at the ready.
Yeah. It's like, what do we have in our well? Because usually, like, if I don't have beauty in there, then I'm going to go to anxiety and fear, and they're a whole different.
Totally.
And that's the beauty of of work.
Oh, totally. That's it.
Because
that's what
that gives us agency. Yeah. It's like fabulous. Yep. We can do this just by showing up. That's why I also love every time we put ourselves in the path of beauty, even if it's the same, if it's the irises over and over and over, every time it reveals more is revealed about the beauty and about us.
Right.
And we don't have to make it happen. We put ourselves in its path.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You were going to say something.
Just real quick, and then because you had a question too, because I want to get to the question. Yeah, but just real quick, I'm reminded of Tim Mackey's from the Bible Project, his comment that I heard a number of months ago, where he said, once you get past the second page of the Bible, virtually never does God ever do anything apart from human agency. It's always humans who are the actors.
Wow. Wow.
And I think it's so easy for us to think, I just want God to do something. But what we're saying here is that God has done something, and that He's provided Rothko. He's provided a piece of wild things. Like He's come, He's finding us, right? He's the beauty is there, and He takes us so much more seriously than we take ourselves. And so for us to be agents to then take advantage of and to live into our roles as kings and queens who will one day rule over angels, I'm thinking like, I hope the ones I have to rule over are like three and maybe 7 years old. Like that's about, they're about that big, because that's a whole other enterprise. I would want to say, God, are you sure? I don't know that that's a good idea. Anyway.
Okay, my question. So I found myself wanting to name the states of mind, which I don't. Can you name? And then I thought correct me if I'm wrong. It's very closely related to emotion, right? Like a fearful state of mind. I found myself wanting to.
Yeah, we might say we might say that it's more than that. In that, so the example would be, if the alarm goes off on Saturday morning and I'm going to go play pickleball,
Right.
emotion is part of that, but the state of mind would include the automatic, without me thinking about it. Like I'm not waking up and thinking, oh, I'm now in the state of mind of being prepared to go to play pickleball. I'm not thinking that.
Right.
But I just get up and automatically do, like I go to my closet and I get my gym shorts and I get my t-shirt and I get my sneakers, I get my socks for playing this. And I'm just like on autopilot doing this while I'm thinking about other things.
Right.
Yeah, yes, emotion is certainly part of that state. But there is also like behavior. There's also implicitly remembered actions and things that I'm imaging and things. Right, I'm thinking I'm going over to the dresser to see the little thermostat that keeps track of the outside temperature. Do I have to put on longer like athletic gear or whatever? All those things. So it's an expanded. So when we talk about state of mind, it is a neural network pattern, firing pattern that is all primed and fairly automatically ready to be delivered, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's kind of like, we can be primed in other ways. If I'm primed to, I'm not proud of this, but when I feel accused, when I feel accused, not just neutrally, but when I have done something, and not that either of you would ever have any idea what this is like. When I have done, it's the whole thing of like, no good deed goes unpunished. When you've done something and what you think you're doing is you're actually trying to help someone, you're trying to be this, or you're doing the right thing, I'm just minding my own business, and then something happens. And and what your action has done has evoked something in somebody else, maybe it's your spouse, for example, not like hypothetically. And the next thing you know, things are being said, and you're like, wait, what the, and so there's the feeling. Like when I feel accused, I will tell you, I mean, like it takes about half a second for the Kevlar to come on. I'm like Iron Man. The Kevlar comes on. I have my weapon in my hand. It doesn't take any practice. It doesn't it is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
I mean, in less than 5 seconds, I will enter a completely different state of mind than what I was in 5 seconds ago. And I will tell you, like, it might take me half a day to get out of it. And so this happened not that long ago. And but I will say, with thanks be to God. I mean, I did this imperfectly, but I was aware that I was being tempted to enter into the state. And I'm just breathing, and I'm aware that the state is like you see the storm coming. Right, and somehow those clouds are they're moving so much faster than what they typically the speed, right? They're moving like at 80 miles an hour. How are they getting here so fast from the western horizon? And just breathing, trying to be curious about the other person's state of mind, being curious about where are they, what are they feeling, what are they sensing, what are they imaging. And I will say that the more we practice being in these places of beauty, the more I can access that and just wait long enough and breathe a little longer and breathe a little longer to not let the Kevlar come on and so forth.
Well, and then us being curious about our own, like the reason, Curt, you see it coming is because you've given yourself you're familiar with it. You've been curious about it and you've noticed it.
Yeah,
like we can try to push it away. It can flood us and then we can like try to push it away. But when we're curious about it, then it's almost like we're befriending it.
Right.
And then
totally.
see it coming. Yeah.
Totally. And so like, this is the thing, the contemplation of beauty, putting ourselves on that path, does not eliminate states of mind that are uncomfortable.
Right.
But what it does is that, like, I want to just get back to what you were talking about, Pepper. It lengthens the time of transition for us. So it gives me more options for agency of a different kind, instead of just succumbing to the automaticity of my brainstem and my amygdala that are just like, have me, boom, on the scene, shoot first, ask questions later.
It's good.
Yeah.
Takes work, though.
It does.
The right kind of work. The good kind of work.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for this time.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, it's great to be with you.
Great to be with you.
Yeah.
All right.
See you next week.
Time.
Yep.
This podcast is produced by Curt Thompson, Pepper Sweeney, and myself, Amy Chella. Audio production and editing is by Keaton Simons. Video production and editing is done by Mark Gould. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on social media at BeingKnownPod. If you like this podcast, tell a friend. If you love this podcast, tell everyone you know. And please like, rate, and review wherever you listen. Be well, be now.